mark. T-minus 1 minute and continuing to count. A water deluge system now has been turned on, activated at the pad area. Pressurization taking place now. The various tanks aboard the vehicle being pressurized. Switching to internal power. All stages switching now to internal power. All propellant tanks being pressurized. Count continuing smoothly. The water at the pad covering the flame deflectors. Now we passed the 30-second mark. Water also will be coming on to the decks of the mobile launcher at the ignition point. T-minus 20 seconds, and the countdown continues to go smoothly. Guidance release. T-minus 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. We have ignition sequence has started. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And we have a liftoff. The Skylab lifting off the pad now, moving up. Skylab is toward the tower. Houston is now controlling. 18 seconds, pitch and roll program started. Saturn now maneuvering to its proper flight path attitude. Mark, 25 seconds.
What's up, party people? Welcome to the show. We're grateful to have you here, as always. By we, I mean myself, me, and I. I do not divide myself into three persons on a conscious level on a regular basis, but I am able to do so if necessary to make a point. Okay. I hope you guys are well. I hope everybody's doing great. Really, I said it already, I'm thankful to be here. Got a great show for you today. Avi Lipkin, someone that I think is just amazing. I can't say enough good stuff about him, but the more I say it, the more I feel like it sounds like I'm just gassing him up. So I'm gonna, without further ado, it is my pleasure to bring you my interview with Avi Lipkin of the Lipkin clan. Yeah. All right, let's get into it. Over and out. Scooty booty. Welcome everybody to the show. Great to be here with you. Hopefully the audio sounds okay. I'm here with my guest today is Avi Lipkin. We're just going to jump right in. We don't have much time, so you'll get to know who he is. We'll have a little bit in a little blurb. But before we get started, Avi, I'm going to let him know your website was avilipkin.net. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
And then you can find him on YouTube. You just search Avi Lipkin. That's AVI Lipkin, Lipkin. All right, so yeah. So Avi, how are you?
Okay, very good. Nice to be on your show for the first time.
Yeah, great to have you on. Okay, so we're gonna get started. I'm gonna move. Let's see. I think we're doing good here. I had a couple technical difficulties before we got started, but looks like we're up and running. So let's see. First thing, I heard about you're starting something called the Bible Block Party in Israel, correct?
Yes.
What's the deal with that? Is it so? I mean, I can kind of introduce it for you if you want, but I'll sort of just try to give you a springboard, and you can go from there. So basically, from what I understand, you're starting a Judeo-Christian, uh, Bible-based political party to give some representation to uh, Jesus-believing Israelites.
And also Christians. There are also Christians who are married to Jewish people, and they made Aliyah or moved to Israel, and they are allowed to do according to the Israeli law of return. So we have Messianics and we have Christians. So, they don't have any representation yet in our Congress, in our Knesset.
Right. Well, okay, yeah. See that helps me. You're helping me out. I'm a new interviewer too. This isn't my first gig, but um, so one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was one of your books is called. You've got several books out. One of them is called Return to Mecca. I think it's like the fifth book in the series.
It's book number 6.
Number six, yeah. Um, Okay, so I'm going to tell you a funny story. I saved it. I spoke a little about this before we got on the air, but so I'm going to tell you a funny story. So I worked as a background actor in Hollywood on a bunch of productions, and I worked on this sitcom, and I brought your book with me, and we were I like to joke especially about it on the show. There's so many topics that are hot topics and taboo, and that's kind of one of the things we try to touch on this show. So I brought this book, and it was like right at the heat of like political. People were uncomfortable with the idea of essentially, I mean, I should just say it. So it was right around the time that people were finding out about the Muslim immigration to America. This was maybe like 2015. It was before Donald Trump started running for office, so it was probably 2014 or 2015. But I remember I didn't know at the time that it was like this whole. I didn't even know that there was like this whole controversy. So I scared the crap out of this girl because I sat there and told her for like half an hour about how we're all gonna go, like like all the tribes are gonna return to Mecca, and trying to explain to her um, out of context what this book was about. But I understand. I think that's how you wrote. I mean, you obviously wrote the book, even made the cover with the intention of uh, provoking attention from people.
Absolutely.
So I mean, I could talk about the book more, but essentially, what you found from biblical study, and also it sounds like archaeological work as well. Um, you found uh, that well, would you mind explaining it? Because I don't want to mess it up.
Okay, not a problem. We only need about 3 hours,
Right.
but I'll try to do it in the time allotted. Very simply, I went to seminary, the Jewish Theological Seminary in Jerusalem of the conservative Jewish movement, hoping to become a conservative rabbi, but my politics was of the wrong politics. I was too right wing. So they allowed me to study very graciously for an MA program. And also, one of the reasons I did not find favor there was because I asked a very dangerous question, as you said very correctly, politically incorrect question. I didn't realize at that time how politically incorrect it really was. But I asked the professor, how long have Jewish men been putting on the phylacteries? The phylacteries are those little straps that fit on the arm and then on the head.
Right, with
And
with the black box
the
on
little,
it.
the little Kaaba on top there. And so I asked him, how long have we been doing that? And he said, this goes all the way back to Mount Sinai. and when we got the Ten Commandments and the Torah, and my big mistake was to correct the professor in front of everyone. And I said to him, no, 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 no. I think that it's not exactly as you say, because the first mention, or rather the first two mentions of the phylacteries appear in Exodus 13 before we started our journey out of Egypt. So it's before Mount Sinai. And that really, really got him upset. Now, he had shown us in class verses from the New Testament in which it said that why don't I just quote correctly? It's Matthew 23, verse 5, and Jesus is condemning the show-off, the ostentatiousness of the Pharisee rabbis. By the way, Jesus was a Pharisee also, but he was a good Pharisee. But he was criticizing those Pharisees who made long the tassels on their garments, which is the prayer shawl, and they enlarged the hems of their garments, and they also they broadened their phylacteries, meaning phylacteries come in three sizes. Today, more or less, the small size is like $250, the medium size is $500, and the extra size is like $1,000. And so these rabbis would probably put on the $1,000 phylacteries to show how pious they were, and that got Jesus very, very upset.
Right.
But anyway, so Matthew was written around the year 50 AD or CE, depending what terminology you use. And it's actually the oldest of the Gospels. And but it proves this is the only external, outside of rabbinic Judaism, is the only external reference to the phylacteries. But what it does prove is that Jewish men have been using phylacteries for over 2,000 years, going back to the year 50. So I asked my professor, very innocently, hey, when did we start putting on phylacteries? He said, Mount Sinai. I said, no, it's not Mount Sinai. We're still in Egypt. And so something strange about the phylacteries, because if you remember, Moses, before he confronted Pharaoh and he said, let my people go, he had been for 40 years a shepherd working for his father-in-law, Jethro. And so one of the crazy things that I don't understand is, how can it be that the rabbis today do not know that the Exodus took place in Saudi Arabia of today? In other words, Arabia
Right.
of those days.
Because it's because they don't believe. Because it's crazy. They could be, frankly, it's because they don't believe that the Bible is literally true. They don't take it as the great Chuck Missler once said. They don't take it seriously.
It could also be, see, the idea of the rabbis is, who are you, or who am I, to express an opinion on the Holy Tanakh, or the Holy Torah. The rabbis are the ones who have the final word, and so you kind of like the Catholic Church. You got to go through the priest, you got to go through the rabbis,
Yeah.
but you yourself are not allowed to read what it says very clearly. And what we see very clearly is that I think that Moses was very influenced by Jethro. Jethro, after all, was a cousin to the fourth degree. Don't forget, Jethro goes back to Abraham, just as Moses goes back to Abraham. And so we're cousins. And anyway, and Moses also, by the way, led an African campaign on behalf of Pharaoh, in which he defeated an African kingdom which had been attacking Egypt, and he married an African woman. I mean, this is in Josephus. This is also in Yalkut Shimoni, the Shimoni file. And all of this is in my book, by the way.
Yeah.
And then after he killed the Egyptian taskmaster, he fled at age 40 across the pond, the Red Sea, to his cousin. So one of the things is, he knew geography. He went to his cousin, Jethro, And by the way, you ask the rabbis, where did Jethro live? Oh, we don't know. I said, well, what do you mean you didn't know? If you know Arabic, the name, the two holy cities of Islam are Mecca and Medina. Well, Medina also has another name, Jethro.
Yeah.
In
You think,
Arabic,
Avi?
it's called Yathrib.
Avi, you think
Yeah.
they know? You think they know, and you think the rabbis the truth? I think the truth is that they know. They all know all this stuff, and they just want to lie. They just lie because they're afraid about what would happen if they told the truth about it.
Well, what you're
Because it's
saying
so.
is very prophetic. What you're saying is very prophetic. I think they honestly don't know. And they don't know because their teachers don't know. And their teachers don't know because the teachers' teachers don't know. Some of
Yeah.
them kind of really do know, but I am led from a completely different direction, actually from some very dear Christian friends. There is a theory, and I'm not saying it's true, I'm just saying there's a theory that there was a kind of a Jerusalem in Arabia. And when the rabbis 2,000 years ago, and by the way, the early apostles of Jesus Christ, they all worked together in Jerusalem, and they did not like the idea of a Jerusalem, an older Jerusalem or holy city in Arabia. There seems to have been some kind of a war going on, but I don't want to talk about that now because that's not the purpose of this chat today. But so the point I'm saying is, I believe Jethro, because he lived in Medina, which is the only area there that has water and oases, but he would lead, the processions into the desert to go to the Black Stone, the Kaaba, which was in what is today Mecca, the city of Mecca. But there was no city then. This was just some very strange black cubic stone, which was not of the area, and it became a processional pilgrimage site for many, many different nations. And
Have you heard
one
there's
of the
like a?
things I say,
Have you heard there's the original story I'd heard was that the original site was started because they had found a meteor on the site.
yes, it could be that it was a meteor. It was not a stone from that area. It was something that very mysteriously popped up. There is a theory, not a theory, there's a tradition in Islam that Abraham and his first son from the concubine, Ishmael, that they actually built the Kaaba around this black stone. Again, there's no proof for any of this stuff. This is just traditions. And so, listen, if the rabbis say, and the Bible says, and the Jews and the Christians say that the chosen son was Isaac, then you don't really want to know about Ishmael, do you? But the Islamic side is that Ishmael was the chosen son, and that Abraham was going to sacrifice Ishmael, not on Mount Moriah, but at the Kaaba. And the Islamic tradition is that three genies appeared, and the three genies spoke. Each one spoke to a different person. One spoke to Abraham, the other to Hagar, and the other to Ishmael. That Ishmael should be sacrificed. And so Abraham and Hagar and Ishmael threw stones at the three genies and chased them away. That's the Islamic tradition. So when people go on Hajj, when people go on the pilgrimage to Mecca, the Saudi government set up these tremendous cement columns, and the pilgrims throw rocks at these three cement columns to commemorate what Abraham, Hagar, and Ishmael did. So, of course, Jews and Christians reject all that nonsense because the one who was supposed to be sacrificed was Isaac in Mount Moriah in Jerusalem. By the way, Jerusalem is never mentioned once in the Quran.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, stick with me. We have a lot of hours to talk.
Yeah, sounds great. I was gonna say you don't want to walk through Mecca in groups of three, I guess now. You might.
Well, listen, I don't know. I have nothing to say about that. There are a lot of things I don't know about the Hajj. And by the way, very important thing, also very important, when Moses appears before Pharaoh, and by the way, Moses appears many times before Pharaoh, and he says 6 times, "Let my people go." But the first time, he says it differently than the other 5 times. The first time, he says, let my people go so that they may go around in circles in the desert.
Right.
Now, the word...
I'm sorry, I jumped the gun on you.
You were going to ask the question.
Yeah, I interrupted you with your own. This I think this is really interesting. About the circling in the desert. I apologize. It's like a Hodge.
No, it's okay. It's, by the way, what I wanted to say, you told me, I think, that you were in California at some time.
Correct.
With Hollywood. Well, you know the term "no way, Jose"?
Yeah.
Well, Americans, they can't say the chota. They don't say Jose. They say Jose, like no way, Jose.
Yeah.
So we've got the same thing in Hebrew and in Arabic. So Moses says, "Shlachat ami, let my people go. Sheyahogu li bamidbar, that they may celebrate the Lord in the desert." Now, how do you say happy holiday in Hebrew? Is Chag Sameach. And so, the word Sheyahogu li bamidbar, the idea is that, well, the King James translates that as that they may celebrate the Lord in the desert. But in Arabic, the word Hajj means to go around in circles around the black stone. The Egyptian Arabic, by the way, my wife is Egyptian, so I know the Egyptian slang or pronunciation. So the word is not Hag, but Hajj. I mean, Hajj in Arabic, Hag in Egyptian Arabic, and of course the Hag sounds similar to Hag in Hebrew, but they don't have the Way Jose business there. So the same word gets kind of like mispronounced in different ways. But my theory is that Moses said to Pharaoh, let my people go so that they may go around in circles in the desert around the black stone, which of course nobody's ready to admit, except for me. And by the way, a lot of Muslims say, Avi's right. it's around in circles around the black stone in the desert. And you have to remember, this is after Moses spent 40 years with Jethro, his father-in-law, who was the high priest of the black stone.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think there is indeed a very close connection between our earlier days and the desert tribes that lived in the desert. Don't forget, during the time here, you got the story of the golden calf. I'll ask you a rhetorical question. If Aaron, the high priest, was such a terrible guy for making the golden calf, why wasn't he executed? And the reason is that the golden calf represented the male bull and the female cow that were the gods, the clean gods of the Israelite shepherds, whereas the gods of the Egyptians were unclean gods, like crocodiles and snakes and beetles and stuff like that. So Aaron basically was restoring religion, the old time religion, which is primarily sex, by the way, to the Israelites when Moses failed to come back from Mount Sinai after 40 days and 40 nights in the desert. Now, of course, Moses did not have a cell phone. He did not have internet or a telephone to call up Aaron and say, hey, I'm coming down in about 2 hours. And so people thought after 40 days and 40 nights that Moses had died. And so they came to Aaron. They said, we want our gods back, the moon, not the moon, the bull and the cow. And so he obliged them. He gave them, created a golden calf. And, today everyone harshly judges Aaron. All he was doing was bringing back the good old time religion.
Yeah, I think the key to God revealing things in the Bible is to read it genuinely. The more you can look at these people, it disconnects you so much from the Word of God to look at it like allegorically, and we try to get these understandings from it. And the more there's a Hollywood saying or a writer's saying that the story is that when a young writer, a young poet sees a tree is just a tree, and when he gets to the medium spot, he thinks the tree is something else, and then when he becomes like a master, he sees that the tree is just a tree again. And we see a lot when we just take it, like I overcomplicate things, I know, and I found that the greatest revelation comes to me when I take it just at its you start at the face value. If you start there, then it starts to reveal things.
Hmm.
But if you can't meet it at that place, then um so and that's how I see people, even the Christians that I speak to. I feel like that's why I think there's such a disconnect. I think this whole thing was dealt with on the cross. And I think that we are just in the aftermath of trying to figure out God's work on the earth. So I think Satan was defeated at the cross. I think we're just, I mean, Messiah came. So, um, uh, yeah, so I think the Bible is the key, and I think I see a lot of people disconnected from it because they don't take it simply. Like one of the things that attracted me to your work through Chuck Missler's uh, ministry was the same thing that attracted me to these other guys. Who was it that I was just thinking of? The Caldwells, the people who do
Yes.
the archaeology work out there. Um,
Right.
the thing about the city of David that amazed me. These things deepen your faith because as you start to see that the Bible actually is reality, like that it's a recording of reality, and not and how much other historical things that we lift up. I mean, just like religion, all these things are pale in comparison and are at best images of what the Bible gives you.
Yes. By the way, if I may add something, the Caldwells in their photography show a lot of images of a sandal, a shoe, a sandal, a foot, denoting this place is holy. Take your sandals off, And uh, when the Israelites, okay, I'm coming with an entirely new theory now, which we'll have to do a show on about differently.
Sounds good.
In the land of Israel, my son Aaron, who is CEO of Lipkin Tours, we have our own tour company. He found geographical sandal footprints the size of 3 football fields, and it turns out that the Israelites would go around in circles in procession around these footprints, and then they would make their animal sacrifices there in the middle of the footprint. And just recently, there was something in the news that also my son was very much involved with, up in the Arab city of Nablus, Shechem. There's a place called Ebal, Mount Ebal. And there was my son and an archaeologist have put out DVDs about this, Joshua's altar. And now the Palestinians are trying to destroy it because it's in their Palestinian area. But the point is that the Israelites would go around in circles around these footprints, and there are like 7 of them, although they may be discovering more of these footprints. But this is reminiscent of the Hajj, of going around in circles around the Black Stone in Mecca.
Right. Isn't there a verse that that's the way that God told was I'm sorry, Moses, the way he marked out the boundaries of Israel was he said that wherever your feet touch, that will be your land. And that's where they walked. They walked down like through. That's why I think it's so important, because uh I believe that the Muslim people are a part of Israel, and I believe that I don't think there's I think what we see is a war between um Muslim nations and Israel is really comes down to a lack of communication about the reality of the Bible.
I
Um,
agree with you 100%.
so we'll see if we can dig into that at another time, huh?
Sure.
All right, I'm
By the
gonna.
way,
Yeah.
there's a scholar by the name of Davidi here in Israel. who says that 85% of the Palestinians are Jewish by blood, but they were forced to convert to Islam over the last 1,400 years. So I'm just saying, there's also a number of theories that there are many, many tribes in Saudi Arabia that are Jewish secretly. They won't admit it, but everyone knows that they're Jewish. Some people say the king of Saudi Arabia and his family are Jewish.
Yeah, I think anybody who, I mean, if you believe God, if as a Jew, as a Christian, uh, if I believe that God is real, I believe His word that He says that those who seek Me will find Me. Um, so I can't see. Yeah, I mean, I can't see who who would be searching for God that wouldn't find Him.
Right.
I guess I guess our pride gets in the way or whatever. I'm sure we can find more to talk about.
Sure.
Um, but let's save it for another time. I think we just hit the mark here perfectly. So I'm gonna go ahead. We're gonna end this episode here. Thank you guys so much for being with us. Uh, yeah, we'll talk to you next time.
Hello, hello. Howdy, howdy. Say again?